Hello, this is Dakota Chapman. After reviewing the case studies, it became increasingly clear to me that I need to focus on case study number one, which was a student disrupts class and a teacher's response seems to only enhance the behavior. That's one that I have dealt with in the past, so I've got some personal experience on. And after thinking on that situation and thinking about Todd Whitaker's book, I kind of developed about a four-step approach on how to handle that situation. So my first step is, of course, to focus on the people. Focusing on the people, I would definitely check with other teachers and kind of see, is this a behavior that's concentrated only to my classroom, or is this something that we see, school-wide? Do other teachers have that same behavior, or is it just me? Sometimes it's something that a student is dealing with over several classrooms, or it might be just your classroom is what's setting that student off. I would also check with their counselor. Is there something that I'm not aware of? Is there something that they're dealing with at home that I just don't know, and I can help, maybe offset that behavior by changing something in my classroom? And then if it's a special education student, I would definitely talk to their case manager and kind of get some more background knowledge. Of course, we have IEPs, but just some broad ideas or thoughts that they have about that student that could maybe help, because they deal with those students a lot. So I would just build that background knowledge on that student, kind of knowing, okay, where is this all coming from? And I may not have an idea. I may just kind of have to continue on to my next step, which step two would be to evaluate myself. Hey, I may not know exactly what's going on with the student, or I may know, but I need to know where I can be better. And so I would look at my own people skills. I would look at my own classroom management. I would look at the way I interact with students. Do I need to change just for this one student for them to react a certain way? So I would definitely evaluate myself and work on, the key areas that could help that student change that behavior. After evaluate myself, I would move to step three. My step three would be to develop a plan. Now, with saying that, we all know plans, programs, they're great. It's always great to have a system of doing things, but we know we got to focus on the people, just as Whitaker says. And so with knowing that plan, I would also be able to adjust it. And that's one of the best things I ever learned in education. I had a coach, and a math teacher who taught me early on, his simple phrase was always this: plan and adjust. And so that's what I've kind of lived by in education and in coaching is, hey, you got to make a plan. You got to have some type of guidance for you in every situation, but you got to be able to adjust it. You got to be able to move with the flow, because a lot of times in education, things are changing. There's stuff going on. You got to be able to plan, but you got to adjust. And so I would work on a plan, and I'd work on implementing that plan for that student, whether that be, preferential seating, kind of moving them around in the classroom, maybe moving them away from some friends, or maybe them moving them closer to my desk or closer to the front. Something that could, kind of change based off of if it's a friend issue. It could be that I may need to have a parent meeting. I may need to sit down with their parent one-on-one with the student and kind of say, hey, this is kind of the behavior I'm seeing, could you help me out with this? And that is always an avenue you could go. You could overemphasize good behavior. If it's a student like that we talk about is disrupting class a lot, you can always kind of, every time they are, acting in a well-behaved manner, you can kind of highlight that for them. And that might show them that, hey, this behavior will get this type of reaction from the teacher. And so I would develop that plan, be ready to adjust, and implement it. Now, with that being said, you would hope that the situation would end there and the disruption would end. But sometimes it just doesn't happen that way. And so I would move to my step four. And in that situation, my step four would be to set up a meeting with that student with someone that they definitely 100% trust in that school. It might be a principal, it might be a coach, it might be a counselor, it might be a teacher they had in middle school. But I need a other educator, another person, another adult to kind of intervene with me. And I would sit down with that person and the student and kind of try to build that trust with that student that maybe we're not able to, because maybe I don't have the people skills for that person, or maybe they don't. And that's something that I had to do personally. I had a student last year actually that, he kind of caused conflict in the classroom on a regular basis. And I mean, I tried everything. I tried to develop a relationship. I tried to talk to the counselors and see, hey, what can I do? I talked to his case manager because he had an IEP, and there was nothing that seemed to really work for the student. And so I found another coach actually that had the student in middle school, and I asked him to come and meet with us. And we had a meeting, and we just kind of talked through some things, and the student we let him talk. We let him say whatever. We told him, hey, this is an open window policy. You can say whatever, you can tell me however you feel. And the student says some things that were offensive, absolutely. But it actually, what he said offended the other coach as well, because he made a comment about me, being a coach. And the other coach was like, hey, I'm a coach too. So if you feel that way about all coaches, that's how you feel about me. And it kind of put the student, it let him see me in a different light. And so now me and the student, we never had a wonderful relationship, but it definitely changed his behavior in the classroom because he saw me in a different light, and I truthfully saw him in a different light after that meeting as well. So I think, if you can get it through step 1 and step 2 and step 3, that's fantastic. That's, what you really want. But when you have those moments where it doesn't seem to be any resolution, I think you need to get someone that they trust and kind of sit down with them and say, hey, it's open. Whatever you got to say, you say it. If you feel some type of way about me as a teacher, tell me. And that's what we had to do with this student. And lo and behold, like I said, it wasn't like me and the student just had this wonderful, amazing relationship after, but his behavior changed because he kind of changed his thinking process based off the person he trusted, kind of intervening on his behalf and also on my behalf. So I think, you can follow those steps, focus on the people, right? You can then evaluate yourself. You can then develop a plan, put it into action, but be ready to adjust. And then lastly, again, go back to focusing on the people. Who do they trust? Who can I help build this bridge between us? And when you do that, I feel for certain that, that's a way that you can definitely 100% handle that situation.